I've been skunked for 3 years straight, yet the internet has dubbed me the fishing god. That's because while others use bait, I seem to use my own life force to fish. My catches aren't fish but human remains, suitcases, bombs, or even nuclear submarines, and with a single cast, I once snagged a shady business owner's illegal fish shocker, landing him a spot with 3 hots and a cot. In short, I haven't caught a single fish, but I've managed to fill up the county jail. The cops are at their wits' end, pleading, "Ethan, buddy, for the love of God, can we please stop fishing?" Right now, by the banks of the Clearwater River on the outskirts of town, the afternoon sun is as vicious as a wicked stepmother, baking me until I'm drenched in sweat, yet the bobber on the water's surface remains perfectly still. Just as I was about to get heatstroke, the bobber shot under, sending out a ripple. My heart leaped with joy as I gripped the rod with both hands and yanked upwards with all my might. But to my surprise, the rod didn't budge, and an immense, strange force traveled up the line, nearly pulling me into the river. Holy crap, a monster. Definitely a monster. A few other anglers who had been dozing off nearby heard the commotion and quickly gathered around. "Nice one, kid. Look at the bend in that rod. Must be at least 70 or 80 pounds. Hold steady, hold steady. Don't let it snag. Let out some line. Let out some line." Hearing the praise from the surrounding anglers, I felt a surge of energy, and the behemoth under the water began to slowly surface. I wondered if it was a 100-pound grass carp or a trophy-sized ASP. Under the expectant gazes of the crowd, a dark shadow slowly emerged. However, it wasn't the streamlined body of a fish, but a bulging, green-woven polypropylene sack. Perhaps from being submerged for so long, it was covered in weeds and mud, looking like a big, hairy ball. The people around me shook their heads and sighed in disappointment. What a shame, what a shame. How did he end up catching a bag of trash? My mood plummeted from the clouds to the depths as I struggled to drag the sack ashore. Instantly, an indescribable stench filled the air, tinged with a cloyingly sweet, nauseating odor. An angler next to me couldn't hold it in and immediately started to retch. I pinched my nose and crouched down to remove the hook, but the moment I did, my pupils dilated in shock. Through a tear in the sack made by the hook, a toe painted with red nail polish was clearly visible. In that instant, my mind went blank with a buzz, and I collapsed to the ground, unable to move. An old-timer nearby saw this and eagerly came closer. "Well now, did you find some treasure? Let me have a look." But the next second, his words caught in his throat, and a blood-curdling scream tore through the riverside quiet. Murder! 20 minutes later, the red and blue lights of police cars illuminated the wild river. I was flanked by 2 officers, and although I wasn't in cuffs, the way they positioned me made me look no different from a suspect. The senior officer's name was Captain Miller, the head of the city's criminal investigation department. He had eyes like a hawk, and a single glance from him could make a person shiver. "Officer, I swear I was just trying to catch a fish for some soup. How was I supposed to know I'd reel in this thing?" Captain Miller glanced at my empty keep net, then pointed to the sack on the ground and said, "Looks like fish soup is off the menu for today. Come on down to the station with me for a chat." In the interrogation room, I held a disposable paper cup, my mind a complete blank. Captain Miller sat across from me, his expression grim as he flipped through a file. According to the medical examiner's report, the contents of the sack are indeed human remains, but the soft tissue has completely decomposed, leaving only phalanges and some adipose tissue. The estimated time of death is at least 2 years ago, which means it has nothing to do with this young man here. Captain Miller closed the file, his tone softening slightly. "All right, you can relax. We've checked your story, and it seems you're just a fisherman with some seriously bad luck. You're free to go. By the way, still want that fish soup?" My face turned pale, and I waved my hands frantically. "No more fishing. I'm done with fishing for life." After completing all the paperwork, I walked out of the police station with my fishing gear in hand, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the cloying, sweet stench still lingered in my nostrils. I looked at the gear in my hands, ready to pack it away for good. But just as I lifted the lid of a trash can, a ding suddenly sounded in my mind. Host's will to fish has been detected at a critical low. Binding, fishing heat map system. Successful catches will earn points. Each point can be exchanged for $10. New user bonus, 500 points. My hand froze. 1 point equals $10. Then 500 points would be $5,000. The fear in my mind instantly vanished, replaced by an almost manic excitement. The old saying, "fishing can make you rich," was true after all. I checked the time. There were still 3 hours until dark. I silently commanded, "Open system." Instantly, a translucent blue map appeared before my eyes, showing the waterways of Riverside City. About 500 yards downstream from the crime scene, an area was flashing with a red light. I gritted my teeth, grabbed a shared bike, and headed straight for the Clearwater River. Bad luck or not, for $5,000, I'd wrestle a ghost back into its grave if I had to. Soon, I was back at the Clearwater River. My old fishing spot was now cordoned off with long lines of police tape, and a few forensics officers were still there, collecting evidence from the water. Following the location indicated by the system's heat map, I went downstream, found a flat spot, and started preparing my bait, adjusting my float and casting my line. Sure enough, less than 10 minutes after my line hit the water, the bobber twitched. It dipped twice, then slowly began to sink, a classic sign of a bite. I was ecstatic. This kind of bobber action almost certainly meant a big wild crappie. I held my breath, waited for the perfect moment, and then jerked the rod up hard. However, my hands were met with a dead weight. The familiar, heart-stopping heaviness instantly froze the smile on my face. Cautiously, I reeled in the line, slowly pulling the object closer. It was a strangely shaped thing, not wrapped in a sack this time, just a few tattered pieces of cloth clinging to a stark white bone with a clear joint structure. It looked like a femur, but the break was clearly not from natural causes. The last bit of hope in my heart died, and a chill shot up from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. Had I stumbled upon a damn dumping ground for human remains? I stiffly pulled out my phone. "Captain Miller, are you still on duty? Sorry to bother you, but you might need to come back out here. I've caught another fish." When Captain Miller arrived on the scene again, his eyes were a mixture of 70% shock and 30% suspicion. "Buddy, be honest with me. Were you a tomb raider in a past life? Or do you have some kind of supernatural ability to find things? Captain Miller, would you believe me if I said I was just trying to catch a fish to spice up my dinner?" Captain Miller rolled his eyes, clearly unconvinced. He stared intently at the bone before him. The DNA from the finger bones we found earlier was a perfect match for a sensational cold case from 2 years ago. This leg bone here most likely belongs to the same person. I was the lead investigator on that case. We had a suspect, but we could never find the victim's body, so the case stalled. Who would have thought that the crucial evidence would be fished out of the river by you, of all people? You've done a great service, buddy. Once we crack this case, you'll be the first person we nominate for the Good Samaritan Award. 3 days later, I stood on a stage in the Riverside City Police Department's conference hall, the guest of honor. I had a large red rosette pinned to my chest and held a plaque personally prepared by Captain Miller, which read, "A concerned citizen, the scourge of crime." Beside me, Captain Miller spoke passionately into a microphone. "In light of Ethan's outstanding contribution to this major case, the department has decided to award him the Concerned Citizen title and a reward of $5,000. Hearing the words $5,000, my previously dull eyes lit up instantly. Well, now, this trip wasn't a total waste after all. After the ceremony, I had just walked out the main entrance when Captain Miller caught up to me. "Hey, hold on. The case is solved, and the deceased can finally rest in peace. So you've done a great deed. Also, if you ever catch anything interesting again, don't bother with 911, just call my personal number directly." "Captain Miller, can't you wish me some better luck? I just want to be a quiet fisherman." All right. I wish you a speedy fortune then." After saying goodbye to Captain Miller, I went straight home and glanced at my fishing bag in the corner. A thought struck me. A craftsman must first sharpen his tools. I figured the reason I kept catching those things was because my rod wasn't good enough to ward off the bad juju. So, I spent a small fortune on a limited edition Daiwa rod, top-of-the-line imported fishing line, a master-grade bobber, and even a special peachwood handle said to ward off evil spirits. With this set of divine equipment, I refused to believe I couldn't catch a single fish. The next day, I woke up to find my new fishing gear delivered to my doorstep. I opened the fishing heat map system, and the map of Riverside City's waters had refreshed. The red on the Clearwater River was gone, but now, about 20 miles away at a place called Devil's Kettle, a deep red was lurking silently at the bottom. It was so far away, and I'd be all alone. What if something happened? I thought for a moment, then pulled an old phone from a drawer and downloaded a live streaming app. Company is company, and internet strangers are often more reliable than friends. At 3 p.m., I took a cab to the mountainous area near Devil's Kettle. The driver glanced at the destination on his GPS, then at my gear, and hesitated before speaking. "Son, you're going to Devil's Kettle? I hear that place isn't exactly clean. People mysteriously fall in there every year, and they say you can hear crying at night. You're alone, so be quick about it." With that, the driver floored the gas and sped off as if fleeing for his life. What a jinx, saying something like that. Was he trying to scare me on purpose? I patted the $1,000 Daiwa rod on my back to steel my nerves. I've reeled in human remains before. What's a ghost to be afraid of? I then hauled my gear down a small path for about 10 minutes and finally reached the location marked by the red dot on the system. It was a typical moraine-dammed lake, the water a heart-stoppingly dark green, which looked quite terrifying. I swallowed hard, found a relatively flat pile of rocks, and set down my bags to fiddle with my streaming equipment. Being a new account, my stream was empty. I wasn't in a hurry, so I skillfully mixed my bait, adjusted my bobber, and used a special spoon to toss out handfuls of corn kernels for chum. Then, I cast my line with a powerful throw, the bait landing precisely above the glowing red dot. As time ticked by, the sun began to set, and the light in the valley dimmed. The number of viewers in my stream, however, had actually grown to over 50 people. To be honest, I wanted to leave too. I kept feeling a chill down my spine as I sat there. But the system's red dot was right here, and it was moving slightly, which meant it had to be something alive. "Don't worry, folks. The big ones always bite at night." The words had barely left my mouth when the bobber on the water surface gave a violent shudder. My spirits lifted. "Folks, did you see that? I've got a bite." With that, my body reacted instinctively, yanking the rod to set the hook. There was a loud thwack as the line sliced through the water, The sound so sharp it had a metallic, vibrating quality to it. The Daiwa rod in my hands instantly bent into a full moon, and an indescribable force shot up from the tip, causing me to stumble forward, nearly pitching me headfirst into the lake. The live stream chat exploded, but I had no time to look at the comments. I gripped the rod tightly with both hands, bracing the butt against my stomach, my face turning beet red. With a roar, I used my core strength to lean back. What the hell was this thing? It was too heavy. It didn't feel like a fish struggling at all, more like an ox was pulling from under the water. Come on, up you go. The water's surface began to churn as a mass of bubbles rose up. The viewer count in my stream skyrocketed due to the intense struggle. That's definitely not a fish. Even if it's a 100-pound turtle, you'd have to reel in Poseidon first, right? If he pulls that thing up, I'll eat my own shoe on a live stream. I gritted my teeth, veins popping on my forehead. Thankfully, the red dot on the system map was slowly moving closer to the shore. Finally, after a standoff of nearly 10 minutes, the surface of the water broke. It wasn't a fish's head, nor the back of some sea monster, but a gray, metallic wing. That's right, a wing. Following that, a streamlined, gray object about 3 feet long emerged from the water. It looked like a miniature fighter jet, but it had no cockpit and a propeller at the tail. I frowned, completely dumbfounded. The viewers in the stream were just as confused. What is that? A drone? Then, under the watchful eyes of hundreds of viewers, I used every ounce of my strength to drag the heavy object onto the rocky shore and collapsed, panting heavily. Only then did I get a chance to examine the big thing up close. The paint on this thing was intact, and though it was tangled with some weeds, it clearly hadn't been in the water for long. The impact marks on the wing suggested it had crashed before falling into the lake. A black case was mounted on its belly, sealed with a sticker, but the writing was too blurry to read. The chat was flooded with comments urging me to open the case. I swallowed, hesitated for a long moment, and finally managed a smile that looked worse than a grimace. Folks, I think with this thing we'd better trust the boys in blue. This is my first day streaming, and I'd rather not end it in a jail cell. With that, I pulled out my phone and dialed Captain Miller's number. At the city's Criminal Investigation Department, Captain Miller had just finished his work and was about to lie down for a quick nap, but as soon as he lay down, his phone rang. Seeing the caller ID was Ethan, the guy who fishes up bodies, he shot up from his cot. After hearing my description, he immediately started getting dressed. Don't touch that case. Turn off the stream, stay right where you are, and wait for me. I'm bringing a team over right now. 40 minutes later, the piercing wail of sirens shattered the valley's tranquility. After parking on the roadside, Captain Miller and several young officers ran in. When they saw the gray drone with its 3-foot wingspan lying on the rocky shore, they all gasped. Captain Miller circled the drone, his expression grave. This is a modified DJI Agras T-Series industrial frame. They've upgraded the battery and motors for heavy load, long-distance flights. Seal off the area and wait for the tech unit. The officer next to him knew Captain Miller was a drone enthusiast and had identified the model at a glance. The tech unit officers immediately moved in, carefully inspecting the black case. After confirming there were no explosives, they broke the seal and opened the lid. I craned my neck to see and my eyes widened. Officer Evans from the tech unit shook his head, crouched down, and picked one up to examine it. More expensive than gold. These are computer chips, high-end ones that are currently restricted. This whole case is worth at least $100,000. It has to be smuggling. Captain Miller's brow furrowed. They had indeed received intelligence recently about a smuggling ring using drones to fly-line goods across the border in the mountains. He never imagined one would crash into Devil's Kettle and get fished out by someone. At this thought, Captain Miller turned to look at me, his gaze now 30% shock and 70% suspicion. Kid, do you have an informant on the inside? How is it that wherever there's a major case, you're there fishing? Captain, I swear to God, I was really just trying to catch a fish. Who knew this piece of junk was in the water? Honestly, I would have preferred a 100-pound carp. Captain Miller shook his head and sighed, waving to the other officers. All right, take this back to the station. Ethan, you're coming with us too. You got it. But Captain, can I sit in the front this time? The back of the squad car is really hard. Captain Miller rolled his eyes again, which I took as a yes. Heh. That night, although my live stream was cut short, clips of Angler Fishes Up drone went viral online. A day later, I had become a celebrity in Riverside City. While the classified details couldn't be released, a police bulletin was issued about concerned citizen Ethan A. assisting police in cracking a major smuggling case. Combined with the TV coverage from the dismemberment case, my social media account gained over 50,000 followers overnight. The comment section was full of witty remarks. An angler never gets skunked. The species is just random. Dude, you're not fishing for fish. You're fishing for police quotas. I recommend a full investigation. This isn't fishing. This is cleaning up the city's crime blind spots. Of course, besides the fame, there was a more tangible reward. Because the case involved a huge sum of money and my catch was a crucial lead, the reward was even bigger than last time. A full $10,000. I couldn't stop grinning as I looked at my bank account balance. Just then, the system's notification sound chimed as expected. I didn't hesitate to redeem a strength enhancer. Fighting that drone yesterday nearly killed me. My body is my capital, and it needed an upgrade. Instantly, a warm current flowed through my body, and I felt filled with power. Although the process made me let out a series of foul-smelling farts on the street, the end result was satisfying. Now that I had money and a stronger body, it was time to enjoy life. I remembered the comments from last night's stream mocking my inability to catch fish and decided to go to the pet market, buy the biggest fish tank, get the most expensive fish, and wash away my shame. The pet market in Riverside City wasn't very big. After looking around, I couldn't find a fish tank that matched my new $20,000 net worth. Just as I was about to leave in disappointment, the previously quiet system map flickered. I instinctively opened the map and saw a small dot of light appear less than 6 feet to my left. But this time, it wasn't red, it was a golden dot. The system's manual didn't mention anything about golden dots. Could it be some kind of rare treasure? After all, gold always looks expensive. I stopped and turned to look at the stall. It was a small turtle stand with a few old plastic tubs filled with turtles of all sizes. The owner was an honest-looking old man. My gaze fell on a dirty-looking styrofoam box next to the tubs, because the golden dot on the system map was right on top of it. Inside, a single palm-sized turtle sat alone, covered in dried mud, with 3 distinct black stripes on its shell. The old man saw me looking at the turtle and said, "I got that one from the countryside a couple of days ago. Some kind of box turtle. If you want it, you can have it for $10. A golden dot marked by the system for only $10? This was an absolute steal. My heart leaped with joy, and I bought it without a second thought. I didn't know what was so special about it, but the system was never wrong. Afterwards, I started a live stream as I walked. Folks, check out this great thing I just found. Got it for $10. What do you think? Is it worth it? Thanks to the morning's police bulletin, 3,000 people flooded into my stream the moment I went live. Yo, the Secretary of Justice is here. His lordship is up to something new again. Wait a minute, streamer. That turtle doesn't look like a regular turtle. If I'm not mistaken, that's a wild golden coin turtle. Judging by the shell wear and growth lines, it's at least several decades old, worth 6 figures easily. Hold on, aren't wild golden coin turtles a protected species? The Secretary of Justice has some serious skills. Fishing for bodies, shopping for jail time. His life is full of excitement. Reading the flood of comments, my hand trembled, and I almost dropped the turtle. This damn system. I thought gold meant a rare treasure, not a one-way ticket to a pair of golden handcuffs. I gritted my teeth, made a decision that would disappoint my ancestors, and expertly dialed Captain Miller's number. The phone rang for a long time before he picked up. "Ethan, are you my nemesis? I get 1 damn day off a month, and you call me. What did you catch this time? An aircraft carrier?" Captain Miller, I didn't catch it this time, I bought it. I bought a turtle at the pet market, and my viewers are saying it's a protected species." On the other end of the line, Captain Miller took a deep breath and ground his teeth. "Stay right where you are. Keep an eye on that stall. I'm sending a nearby unit over right now." Okay. 10 minutes later, I was in the back of a police car again. The poor old turtle seller was taken away for allegedly selling a protected species, and was about to get a thorough lesson on endangered animal laws. The priceless golden coin turtle was personally taken into custody by an expert from the Fish and Wildlife Service. After all that hassle, it was almost dark by the time I left the station. The day had been more exhausting than fishing. That golden dot didn't earn me a cent. In fact, I was out $10. Just as I was about to wash up and go to bed, the system's notification sound rang out like a voice from heaven. Ding! Congratulations to the host for turning in a nationally protected species. Reward, special skill, basic fish affinity, passive. Effect, lowers the wariness of fish towards you. I shot up in bed. Fish affinity? Lowers their wariness? Isn't that basically a fish magnet aura? I can finally catch a real, live fish. I looked at the Daiwa rod in the corner, the fire in my eyes reigniting. With this skill, it would be a total waste not to go after some monsters and clean out a pay-to-fish pond. When the first rays of morning sun crept through my window, I eagerly got up, washed my face, and grabbed my gear, ready to make a big score. At 8 a.m., I arrived at the famous Crappie Heaven on the northern outskirts of Riverside City, Davis's pay-to-fish pond. It was originally an abandoned quarry, later leased by a bald owner named Mr. Davis and converted into a fishing spot. The edge of the pond was already lined with many anglers, a truly impressive sight. As I walked in with my gear bag, Mr. Davis came up to greet me. Well, if it isn't Riverside City's big celebrity, the Secretary of Justice himself. Are you here on an undercover visit, or are you here to restock your evidence locker? He blew out a puff of smoke, a mocking glint in his eyes, and continued, "But let me be clear, my pond only has fish, not the kind of results you're looking for." A few of the regulars around him chuckled. I couldn't be bothered to trade barbs with him. "You're joking, owner. I'm a legitimate fisherman. What are the rates for today?" Mr. Davis held up 5 sausage-like fingers. The monster pond, mainly big crappie, with some grass carp and common carp mixed in. $50 for 4 hours, and I'll buy back fish at 40 cents a pound. $50? Are your fish raised on gold bars? Mr. Davis sneered and pointed to the pond behind him. Too expensive? Then go to the wild river over there. It's free. and you can even catch some old corpses. I just stocked this pond with 2,000 pounds of farm-raised crappie yesterday, each one over a pound. If you have the skill to fish this pond dry, I'll take the loss. His words got me fired up. Most pay ponds charge 20 or 30 bucks, but this Davis guy was a real shark. I had to teach him a lesson today. I immediately pulled out $50. 50 it is. But don't come crying to me when I clean you out. Mr. Davis acted as if he'd heard the funniest joke in the world, pointing to the other customers. If you can catch 50 pounds today, I'll refund your 50 bucks. Not only that, I'll eat this keep net right here on the spot. Mud and all. Everyone here is a witness. The surrounding anglers clapped and cheered. I didn't waste any more words, found a spot, set up my gear, and started my stream. All right, folks, let's get to work. People started trickling into the stream, and I expertly began adjusting my bobber, finding the bottom and chumming the water. I may not have caught many fish these past few years, but I knew the routine by heart. Plus, with my new cheat skill, catching a fish should be a piece of cake, right? I baited my hook with a carefully prepared bloodworm, and full of confidence, I cast my first line of the day. The bobber stood steady in the water, 2 sections visible. I gripped the rod, holding my breath in concentration. 1 minute passed, then 5, then half an hour. But the bobber was like a rock, completely motionless. This shouldn't be happening. Through the system's heat map, I could clearly see a large cluster of white dots gathered in my chummed area, but the fish were just swimming around the hook without biting. How strange. Sitting in his air-conditioned office, Mr. Davis watched the security monitor with a smirk. Idiot, I just dumped half a ton of fertilizer in there yesterday to lower the oxygen levels. The fish are all gasping at the surface. Who the hell has the energy to eat your bait? As the minutes ticked by, sweat started to bead on my forehead. I couldn't let myself be humiliated today, could I? The mood in the live stream chat was also starting to shift. Is the streamer even any good? It's been so long without a single bite. Mr. Secretary, I think you should call the cops on this pond. This feels like a scam. Seeing this, I felt my face flush with embarrassment. I took a deep breath and silently commanded, "System, full power, basic fish affinity, activate." As I focused my thoughts, an invisible wave radiated out from me and into the water. The next second, something magical happened. The white dots on the heat map, which had been lazily circling, suddenly went into a frenzy, rushing towards my spot. The previously calm surface of the water began to boil, as if it were a rolling pot. My eyes lit up, and I gripped my rod, shouting to the stream, "Here they come! Here they come! Watch closely, folks, the school is moving in." The viewers could also see the change on the water's surface. Holy crap, what's going on? It's like the water is boiling. This is the prelude to a massive haul. However, things didn't go quite as I expected. The fish had arrived, but they didn't seem to be there to eat the bait. Instead, they acted like crazed fans seeing their idol, frantically rubbing against my bobber in line. Some even leaped out of the water, trying to get onto the shore. Splat! A large crappie weighing over 2 pounds landed at my feet, flopping wildly in the mud, its mouth opening and closing as if it were shouting, "I love you, man!" I stood there, completely stunned. In the stream, the viewers were equally dumbfounded. In his office, Mr. Davis muttered, "What the hell kind of black magic is this? Streamer, did you dump something in the water? Why are these perfectly fine fish suddenly going crazy? Could this be the legendary tribute of 1,000 fish?" Mr. Davis's face changed, and the sunflower seeds he was holding fell from his hand. In all his years of running a pay pond, he had seen people catch a ton of fish, and he had seen people get skunked, but he had never seen fish voluntarily jump onto the shore. At this point, I wasn't feeling happy at all. Instead, I was breaking out in a cold sweat. The fish were swarming around me, but none of them were biting the hook. I tried to set the hook, but only managed to snag a single scale. For crying out loud, just eat the bait. What's the point of just rubbing against it? As I was frantically dealing with this swarm of crazed fans, I caught a glimpse of something in my peripheral vision. Beneath the dense cluster of white dots, a familiar red dot had appeared, and this red dot was emitting concentric, sonar-like ripples. My heart skipped a beat. A red dot, another red dot. I knew it. This system would never let me have a peaceful day of fishing. But then a thought occurred to me. I turned and shouted to Mr. Davis in the distance, "Hey, Mr. Davis, is there something wrong with your fish? Why aren't they going to the bottom?" Mr. Davis had walked over and was standing a short distance behind me, suspiciously eyeing the pond full of fish. Hearing my question, he stuck his neck out and retorted, "It's hot, the barometric pressure is low, it's normal for fish to surface. Your technique is bad, so now you're blaming the fish? You're just a terrible angler." I sneered, glanced at the red at the bottom of the pond, and then turned to the camera with a grin. "Folks, since Mr. Davis says my technique is bad, let's try a different fishing method." With that, in front of everyone, I began to change my rig. I switched to a thick 20-pound braided line and a large treble snag hook. My system's fish affinity skill might be a bit wonky, but when it came to fishing for red dots, I had never failed. Mr. Davis's eyelid twitched as he watched me change my rig. Hey, what are you doing? That's a snag hook. Who uses that to fish?" I stood up, stretched my shoulders, and fixed my eyes on the red at the bottom. Did I say I was fishing for fish? Humph, watch this. With that, I hurled the snag hook towards the red dot's location as if I were throwing a grenade. With a plunk, the hook shot straight to the bottom. I didn't immediately pull up. Instead, guided by the system map, I gently dragged the hook, feeling the terrain below. A bump, another bump, and then suddenly, I felt the distinct sensation of snagging something solid. I knew this feeling all too well. I let out a roar. "Get up here!" My shout startled all the nearby anglers, who turned to look. They saw me in a wide stance, my body arched back like a bow, hands gripping the Daiwa rod that was bent to its absolute limit as I heaved upwards. If setting the hook before was like playing a violin, this was like trying to rip apart a mattress. A grating, high-pitched sound of the line cutting through water echoed across the entire fishing pond. The object underwater was clearly extremely heavy. My heave didn't even pull it out of the water. Instead, I stumbled backward. Seeing this, Mr. Davis secretly breathed a sigh of relief and immediately started gloating. "Ha! You're snagged. Definitely snagged on the bottom. Let me tell you, Ethan, if you break your line, it's not my problem. Ha ha ha." The viewers in the stream were also shocked by this scene, and the comments flew by. "Why does the secretary's posture look like he's in a tug of war? That rod is definitely going to snap. Wait, look, the tip of the rod is moving. Could it be a monster?" The rod tip was indeed moving, but it wasn't the darting movement of a fish. It was a high-frequency, subtle vibration, as if an electric motor was running underwater. I clenched my jaw, the veins on my forehead bulging. My body, enhanced by the basic strength potion, unleashed an astonishing amount of power in that moment. "Get up here, you!" With a surge of murky water, a large, dark object covered in weeds and fishing nets was forcibly dragged from the bottom. Everyone saw a large, rectangular box similar to a speaker with a long, waterproof cable attached to it that stretched all the way to the management office on the other side of the pond. As soon as it was out of the water, a piercing zzzzt of electricity and a high-frequency hum became clearly audible. People standing on the bank felt a sharp pain in their eardrums and an inexplicable sense of irritation. The fish that had been swarming around me instantly scattered with a whoosh the moment the object emerged, frantically crashing into the bank, some even turning belly up. For a moment, all the anglers put down their rods and stared blankly at the black box. An old fisherman took off his reading glasses and squinted. "What in the world is that thing?" I sneered and threw the object down at Mr. Davis's feet with a loud clank. "Mr. Davis, care to explain? Is this what you call low barometric pressure and bad technique?" Mr. Davis's face turned pale, and he instinctively reached to unplug the power cord, but I stomped on it with my foot. "Folks, if I'm not mistaken, this device is called a high-frequency sonic fish repeller, basically an electronic version of an illegal fish shocker." The anglers on site finally understood and erupted in anger. "Son of a bitch. No wonder I'm always getting skunked. It was you pulling this crap. I've heard of these things. Once you turn it on, all the fish within a 50-yard radius get a concussion. They're lucky if they don't just die, let alone eat bait." A dozen furious anglers, holding landing nets and rod stands, surrounded Mr. Davis. His legs went weak with fear. "It's a misunderstanding, all a misunderstanding. Ugh, this was left here from before. Bullshit. I accidentally turned it on. Liar. The cable casing is brand new." Just then, the sound of urgent police sirens grew closer. Someone must have called them. A police car stopped, the door opened, and a familiar, long-legged figure stepped out. It was Captain Miller, in plain clothes, holding a bag of freshly bought breakfast buns. It was clear he'd been called away before he even had a chance to eat. Captain Miller's gaze swept over the crowd and finally landed on me. He took a deep breath and rubbed his temples. "Ethan, did you plant a tracking device on me? I was just about to eat breakfast, and you pull a stunt like this." I pointed at the device on the ground with a look of grievance. "Captain, I swear, you know I haven't caught a single fish lately, so I came to a pay pond specifically to fish, and who knew I'd reel this thing in? This owner is committing fraud, right? At $50 a person, the total amount must be significant. I'm basically serving the public by exposing him." Captain Miller looked at the still buzzing cheating device and couldn't help but let out a frustrated laugh. While this kind of case wasn't under his department's jurisdiction, since he was here and it involved potential mass fraud, he couldn't just ignore it. Captain Miller waved his hand, and a few officers behind him immediately moved forward to apprehend Mr. Davis. The live stream chat erupted in celebration, with comments like, "His lordship is mighty, and he lives up to his name," flooding the screen. After handling the scene, Captain Miller clapped me on the shoulder. "Not bad, little brother. It's only been 2 days, and you've already expanded your scope from criminal cases to financial crimes." I glanced at my empty keep net and said with a wry smile, "You're too kind, Captain. Honestly, I would have preferred to catch a big crappie. As you can see, I got skunked again." Captain Miller glanced at the net, then pointed to the fish still flopping on the bank and teased, "Hey, there's one right there, ready to go." I kicked the fish back into the water and shook my head. "Doesn't count. For a true angler, does picking one up count as catching it? Next time I will definitely catch a fish." Then, Captain Miller left with the police cars, sirens wailing, and a new message popped up on my system interface. This line of work seemed more profitable than actual fishing. I quickly shook my head, banishing the dangerous thought. I'm an angler, not a bounty hunter. I can't forget my original purpose. I checked the time. It was still early, so I picked up my empty keep net and briskly headed to a new spot. However, I had no idea that because of a viral photo, I had become a legend in the Riverside City fishing community. The photo showed me holding my signature Daiwa rod, 1 foot on the illegal fish shocker, with the seized pond and flashing police lights in the background. The caption was only 1 line, but every word was devastating. At 1 p.m., I showed up with my gear at the entrance of the Happy Angler Fishing Park on the east side of town. Since Davis's place was crooked, I decided to try a legitimate one. The owner here was said to be an honest guy with a good reputation in the fishing community, but it was far from my place, so this was my first time visiting. I walked up to the entrance, about to ask about the fees, when the gatekeeper's eyes went wide as if he'd seen a ghost. He turned and ran into the park shouting, "Boss! Boss! Run! The Undertaker is here!" I stared after the retreating old man, completely bewildered. Less than half a minute later, the owner rushed out with 2 cartons of expensive cigarettes and shoved them into my arms. "Oh, master, I'm just a small business. Please have mercy. Take these cigarettes on me. Could you please go fish somewhere else?" "No, boss. I honestly just want to catch a fish." "Ah, haha, Master Ethan. It's not that I don't want you to fish here. I'm just terrified that with 1 cast, you might pull up my great-grandfather's skeleton, and I couldn't handle that," the owner said with a bitter smile, holding out his phone to show me. 10 minutes later, I was standing by the road in a daze, holding 2 cartons of cigarettes. This was insane. I just wanted to fish in peace. How did I become the public enemy of the entire industry? I couldn't get into any pay ponds, and the wild rivers were full of bad omens. Was fate determined to keep me skunked forever? Just then, my phone vibrated. I pulled it out to see a voice message from my fishing buddy, Old Man Peterson. "Ha ha ha ha. I heard you've been blacklisted by every fishing pond in Riverside City. That's hilarious." I rolled my eyes and angrily typed back a single word, "Piss off." Old Man Peterson sent another voice message. "Don't get discouraged. If you can't go to the ponds, go to the reservoirs. There are several large ones in the next county, like King's Reservoir and Blackwater Lake. They're a bit far, but the fish are huge and wild, and nobody there cares if you're the Secretary of Justice." Hearing this, my eyes lit up. That's right, the reservoirs are huge, and there are no owners to worry about. I can fish however I want. But I quickly realized a problem. The distance was too great, and taking a cab back and forth with all my gear wasn't practical. I looked at my bank balance, and an idea began to grow wildly in my mind. Buy a car. I had to buy a car, and not just any car, but a dedicated angler's vehicle that could carry all my gear, handle rough terrain, and go anywhere. At that thought, my gaze became incredibly determined. To hell with the pay ponds, I'm going to conquer the great reservoirs. Expedition mode activated. I'm a man of action. I went to a dealership, spent 10 minutes picking out an SUV I liked, and then floored it out of the lot, leaving behind only a trail of exhaust and a stunned salesperson. Just then, another ding sounded in my head. Host's first motor vehicle detected. Fishing map has been upgraded. Expedition mode initiated. Map scanning radius expanded to 60 miles. Looking at the virtual map that had instantly expanded countless times, I felt a surge of heroic pride. Now all the reservoirs in the Riverside City area were my domain. King's Reservoir, here I come. However, it was rush hour, and the highway leading out of Riverside City was heavily congested. Suddenly, a deafening engine roar came from the lane to my right. I turned my head and saw it, a heavily modified Ford F-150 Raptor. Its body towered over my car, and it was towing a small base boat trailer. The whole setup must have cost at least $100 grand. Just then, the Raptor's driver's side window rolled down, revealing a young man with red hair and sunglasses. He had one arm resting on the window, a Richard Mille watch on his wrist. As I was checking him out, he saw me too. He took off his sunglasses with a look of disbelief and shouted, "Holy crap, the Secretary of Justice. You're Ethan, the guy who fishes up old corpses, right?" I felt my face darken. I rolled down my window and replied irritably, "I'm Ethan, and I'm a fisherman." Hearing this, the red-haired guy burst out laughing, pointing at the gear in my back seat. "I've watched 2 of your streams, and I haven't seen you catch a single fish. What, are you heading out to make another delivery to the police department today?" This kid had a real smart mouth. Just as I was about to roll up my window and leave, he spoke again. "My name is Ryan Moore, from the Riverside Lure Fishing Club. Everyone who lure fishes knows me. So, what do you say, Mr. Secretary? How about a little competition today?" I jolted when I heard the name. This guy was well known in the Riverside fishing scene. He was a rich kid, the kind whose family owned a mine, known as a top-tier gear junkie who couldn't catch fish but had everything else. The classic all the gear, no idea type. I rejected him without a second thought. "Forget it. I'm not interested. Come on. I'm heading to King's Reservoir. I hear they have trophy-sized ASP there. Let's go together. If you win, I'll give you the brand new Shimano lure fishing set in my truck. It's worth over $3,000. My hand, which was about to raise the window, paused. My Daiwa rod was good, but it was for bait fishing. Lure fishing was a high-end game, and I'd never been willing to splurge on the gear. I looked at Ryan and asked softly, "So, what are the rules?" "Simple. Whoever catches the heaviest single fish wins. If you lose, you just have to shout, 'Lure fishing is king.' Bait fishing is for old folks 3 times on your live stream." I rubbed my nose. This rich kid was really laying on the insults. I glanced at my system map. In the center of King's Reservoir, about 30 miles away, a huge dot was flashing. It wasn't red or white, but a blindingly pure gold, and it was moving fast. A corner of my mouth twitched into a friendly smile. "All right, you're on. But don't go crying to your mommy when you lose. I'll see you at King's Reservoir." An hour later, we finally arrived at King's Reservoir. It was one of the largest water sources in the area, a vast expanse of water with the evening sun casting a beautiful glow on its surface, like a painting. But I was in no mood to admire the scenery, because at that moment, Ryan was standing on his expensive-looking inflatable bass boat, showing off like crazy. "See this? This is a baitcaster reel, this is a long cast. And this fish finder, this is what you call technology changing lives." I stood on the muddy bank and silently took out my Daiwa bait fishing rod. Both of our live streams were already in a head-to-head competition. Ryan was also a streamer, and when we linked our streams, the popularity exploded. Rich kid versus the Secretary of Justice? It's hard to call this one. No way. The Secretary has supernatural luck on his side. He's definitely going to win. Well, I'll bet a bag of chips that the Secretary catches a water ghost today. Soon, the competition officially began. I had to admit, money really does make a difference. Ryan's technique was average, but he chose a good spot. In less than 10 minutes, fishing over a deep water structure, he pulled out a small ASP weighing about a pound. "Ha ha ha, I'm on the board. Master Ethan, how are you doing over there? Still playing in the mud?" I ignored Ryan's taunts to his camera and focused intently on the golden dot swimming rapidly in the center of the reservoir on my system screen. Confirming it was a living creature, I silently commanded, "System, activate basic fish affinity." An invisible wave spread out, but this time it didn't trigger the tribute of 1,000 fish spectacle like it did at the pay pond. I figured it was because the reservoir was too large and the golden dot was at least 200 yards away. The basic affinity skill clearly wasn't enough. Seeing Ryan catch another fish, I decided to go all in. I spent 100 points in the system store to redeem a portion of God-tier chum. I grabbed my chumming spoon and, with all my strength, began flinging spoonful after spoonful of it into the deep water. Ryan shook his head as he watched me. Is he an idiot? Chumming that far out with bait fishing gear is just feeding the fish. I ignored him and continued to wait. 5 minutes later, the golden dot suddenly stopped, then abruptly changed direction and charged towards me at high speed. It was so fast it left a golden afterimage. My heart pounded with excitement. A golden dot represented a rare treasure, and one this big could be the legendary 100-pound king of fish. While I was lost in thought, the golden dot had already entered the water about 10 yards in front of me. I cast my line without hesitation. Just a second later, the bobber shot down with terrifying speed, vanishing in an instant. Even the Daiwa rod in my hand plunged downwards, its tip diving straight into the water. A force 10 times more terrifying than when I caught the drone surged up the rod. "Get up here!" I roared and yanked the rod with both hands. With a loud twang, the special 50-pound braided line let out a mournful cry, strained to its limit. The water's surface exploded, and a massive, golden tail thrashed in the sunset, sending up a shower of spray. Ryan was so shocked he dropped his rod, pointing at the churning water in astonishment. "Holy crap, what the hell is that thing? A golden dragon?" In the twilight, the giant golden tail seemed to be coated in a holy light. It slapped the water's surface hard and dove back under. The resulting waves nearly capsized Ryan's small boat. I held onto my rod, feeling the terrifying force from below, my expression more pained than joyful. Staring at the blindingly bright golden dot, my greed reached its peak. "I don't care if you're a dragon or a worm, you took my hook, so you're mine. You're coming up." With one man and one rod, on the shore of King's Reservoir, an epic battle between man and fish had begun. The live stream chat was about to explode. "Everyone on your feet. Witness a miracle. Damn, with that sound of the line cutting water, I'll eat my hat if that's not a monster. Go, Mr. Secretary. Show that rich kid what brute force can do." But I had no time to read the comments. My arms felt like they were filled with lead, aching and sore. Yet, the elation in my heart was erupting like a volcano. "It's alive. It's definitely alive." Through the rod, I could clearly feel the creature struggling underwater. As I struggled to manage the underwater force using a figure-8 technique, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Ha ha ha. Ryan, you've lost for sure. This one's at least 50 pounds. Your little asps wouldn't even be enough to get stuck in its teeth." Ryan's face had turned a little pale, but he stubbornly retorted, "Don't celebrate too early. Be careful your line doesn't snap. Nothing's certain until it's on the shore." Humph. The words, "snapped line," don't exist in my vocabulary. After my bold declaration, I watched the approaching golden on the system map, my eyes gleaming. A golden dot, and it's alive. This had to be a legendary, top-tier catch. Whether I could finally shed my reputation for getting skunked all depended on this one fight. The minutes ticked by. After a stalemate that lasted for a full half-hour, I finally felt the big creature underwater begin to tire, its struggles weakening. I seized the opportunity, leaned back hard, put all my strength into my arms, and shouted, "Up!" with a loud splash. The water's surface erupted, and a massive dark shadow was forcibly pulled from the depths. The first thing that came into view was a flat, thick tail, followed by a wide, flat body. At a glance, it looked like a piece of driftwood or a giant catfish. Ryan exclaimed in shock, "Holy crap, what a huge catfish. Its head must be the size of a wash basin." But in the next second, Ryan and everyone in the live stream were dumbfounded. The giant creature I had dragged into the shallows didn't flop on its side like a fish. Instead, it extended for short, stubby legs with toes and clumsily crawled a few steps. That's right, it crawled. Then, it opened its absurdly wide mouth and let out a hair-raising cry that sounded just like a wailing baby. Wah wah. I stood frozen as if petrified, staring at this dark, slimy, four-legged, crying behemoth. The ecstatic joy on my face slowly crumbled, replaced by a despair so deep I wanted to cry but couldn't. Ryan was so scared he almost fell out of his boat, pointing a trembling finger at the creature. "Bro, your methods are a little too wild, aren't they? What the hell is that? A water ghost or some kind of monster?" In the live stream, after a brief pause, the chat completely exploded. What the hell is that thing? It looks like a giant salamander, but how can one be that big? A hellbender. That's a giant hellbender. And it's wild. A creature that size must be over 50 pounds. Forget everything else. That crying sound almost made me wet my pants. I was on the verge of a breakdown myself. Staring at the big creature blinking its small, innocent eyes in the mud, a stampede of curses ran through my mind. I just wanted to catch a fish. Why did you have to bring this ancient beast up for me? The hellbender on the ground seemed to sense my disdain and began to cry even louder, its wails sharp and pitiful. I flinched, threw my rod aside, and raised my hands above my head in surrender. Folks, I swear, I was really just trying to catch a trophy ASP. This thing bit the hook on its own. It's trying to frame me. Ryan had paddled his boat to the shore by now, but he didn't dare get out. He stared at the giant hellbender from a safe distance, his eyes filled with awe. "Ethan, my man, I'm impressed. I've been lure fishing for years. I've seen people catch crayfish, birds, even snapping turtles, but you're the first person in history to catch a nearly 50-pound hellbender with a bait rod. This round, I concede." I looked at Ryan's sincere face and was about to jump out of my skin with anxiety. "Enough with the flattery. Help me figure out what to do with this thing. I don't want to go to jail." All I could think about was Captain Miller's line about inviting me to the station for a chat. I hadn't caught a monster. I had caught a one-way ticket to a jail cell. This was awful. I rubbed my brow and squatted about 6 feet away from the giant hellbender, my posture as humble as if I were waiting on a revered ancestor. I wanted to unhook it but didn't dare get close. Not only did this thing have a powerful bite, but more importantly, if I accidentally injured it, I couldn't afford the fine even if I sold everything I owned. The hellbender lay in the mud, its short legs occasionally twitching, letting out another couple of wah cries that sent shivers down my spine. "My dear ancestor, please stop crying. If you attract wolves, that's one thing, but if you attract the cops..." I stopped mid-sentence, glanced back at my still streaming phone, and resignedly dialed 911. "Hello, police? I need help. Could you connect me to the Fish and Wildlife Service or Animal Control? I've caught another protected animal." The operator on the other end paused for a moment, then asked tentatively, "Excuse me, are you Mr. Ethan, the Secretary of Justice?" I rubbed my forehead and nodded in defeat. "Yes, that's me. I'm at King's Reservoir, and I've caught a wild giant salamander, a hellbender, that weighs nearly 50 pounds. It's alive and it's crying. Please hurry. I'm worried it's getting dehydrated." After hanging up, I felt completely drained. I saw Ryan beside me, pouring water from a bottle onto the hellbender, marveling as he did. "Ethan, my man, how do you think this thing got so big? You probably couldn't even fit it in one pot, you'd need two." I panicked and rushed over to cover Ryan's mouth. "If you want to go to jail, don't drag me with you. Every pound of this thing is a felony. One pot of that soup is enough for a life sentence." In the stream, the viewers who loved the drama were laughing their heads off. "Ha ha ha, Ryan is a true outlaw. If they make that soup, it should be called Jailhouse Tears. Captain Miller arriving in 5 seconds. Speak of the devil." My phone rang again. The caller ID read, "Captain Miller, my failsafe." I answered the phone with a trembling hand, only to hear Captain Miller's teasing voice. "Well done, Ethan. I was just eating instant noodles at my desk when dispatch told me you were up to your old tricks. What's this I hear? You didn't catch a corpse this time, but a crying baby." On the verge of tears, I pleaded, "Captain, please don't make fun of me. I really didn't mean to catch it. It took the bait on its own. I've been framed." "All right, stop your whining. Dr. Lewis from the Fish and Wildlife Service is already on his way with a team, and I'm heading over too. You stay put and take care of that thing. Remember, that's a living medal of honor." I nodded and hung up. 40 minutes later, several pickup trucks with park ranger logos bounced along the rugged mountain road. Their headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating my face, which was a mask of utter despair. Captain Miller was with them as promised. The first thing he did after getting out of the truck was walk up to me, pat my shoulder, and then burst out laughing. Seeing my resentful expression, he quickly added, "Sorry, it's just, this scene is too perfect. With so many anglers out here, how is it that you're the one who hooks it with a single cast?" Several experts in white coats had already surrounded the creature, gently lifting it into a professional tank. The lead expert, Dr. Lewis, was so excited his beard was trembling. "A prime specimen, truly prime. This is definitely the largest wild individual ever found in the Riverside area. And look at its condition, it must be at least 50 or 60 years old. It's a little Methuselah." He then turned and gripped my hand tightly, his eyes full of gratitude. "Young man, thank you so much. This salamander is of immeasurable value to our research on the local aquatic ecosystem. You've done a great service." I forced an awkward smile and hesitated before asking. The hook scraped its mouth. "Is it serious? And will it be able to return to King's Reservoir?" "Don't worry, the hook didn't hit anything vital. We'll take it back, disinfect the wound, and let it recover for a few days. Once it's healed, we'll bring it right back here." Hearing that, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Just then, Dr. Lewis waved to someone behind him. The person understood immediately, went back to the truck, and returned with a pre-prepared plaque and a red envelope. Dr. Lewis took the items and handed them to me. "This is a small token of appreciation from the department, a cash reward of $200. It's not much, but it's a sign of our respect. We hope you'll continue in this spirit and report any similar situations promptly." I looked at the gold-stamped words on the plaque, "Guardian of the Waters, Protector of the Ecosystem," and felt a wave of dizziness. The experts then carefully loaded the tank onto the truck, and the mythical beast that had been wailing for half the day was finally taken away. Before it left, it seemed to look back at me, though I couldn't tell if it was thanking me for sparing its life or mocking my terrible fishing luck. The scene finally quieted down. Ryan opened the trunk of his Raptor and pulled out an alloy case. "Ethan, my man, a bet's a bet. This is Shimano's latest spinning reel and lure rod combo, worth over $3,000. It's yours." I looked at the case Ryan was handing me, rubbed my hands together, and hesitated to take it. "Are you serious? Isn't this too expensive?" "Ethan, you have to take it. I'm counting on tagging along with you from now on. I don't ask for much. Just let me touch whatever dragon or phoenix you pull up next time." I looked at the heavy, top-of-the-line lure gear in my hands, then at my empty keep net beside me, and could only sigh to the heavens. All I want is some fish soup. Why is that so hard? On the way back, I was in a state of painful joy. The day had been thrilling, and the rewards were plentiful. $200 in cash, a top-tier fishing setup worth over $3,000, and Ryan now calling me master, and insisting I join the Riverside Lure Fishing Elite Group to open the eyes of those frogs in a well. The painful part, however, was that I still got skunked. As I drove, I muttered resentfully, "Damn this system, I refuse to believe it. Next time, I'm gonna find a place so remote not even a ghost lives there, and we'll see what kind of trouble the system can cook up then." It was past midnight when I got home. After washing up, I lay on the couch and activated the system. Catching the wild hellbender had earned me 1,000 points, bringing my total to 3,500. I opened the point store, hoping to find some magical item to break my skunking curse. Instead, I saw a new, faintly glowing icon in the Today's Special section. Ultimate Eye of Insight, Trial Version, Price, 500 points, Single-Use Consumable, Effect. Host's eyes can clearly see all objects within a 30-foot depth underwater. Duration, 10 minutes. I shot up from the couch as I read the description on the system interface. This was basically a see-through water cheat. Before, fishing was all guesswork. With this, I could see exactly what the fish were doing down there. Even 10 minutes would be enough to locate a school and strike with precision. I spent 500 points on the trial without a second thought. Next time, I'll go to Thousand Islands Lake, where they say the fish are so plentiful you can walk across the water on their backs. I refuse to believe that even if I watch a fish swallow my hook, I'll still end up reeling in a corpse. I was daydreaming happily and about to turn off my phone for the night when a local news notification caught my eye. Riverside City News. Recent heavy rains have caused upstream water levels to rise. Fishermen have reported a large amount of unidentified floating debris in the Dead Man's Cove area downstream. Rumor has it that a merchant ship carrying government silver sank in this area a century ago. Treasure hunters are currently flocking to Dead Man's Cove. I quickly opened the system map in expedition mode and saw that in the channel of Dead Man's Cove, a purplish red, tinged with a dark aura, was flashing. Next to it were several densely packed golden dots. A red dot next to golden dots. What did that mean? Could it be danger accompanied by opportunity? A corpse accompanied by underwater treasure? I swallowed, my heart pounding with temptation. But my rational mind told me that if I went, there was an 80% chance I'd be seeing Captain Miller again. After hesitating for a long time, I rubbed my chin and muttered to myself, "Maybe I'll give it a shot. I have the Eye of Insight after all. I'll just take a peek underwater first. If it's a corpse, I'll run. If it's something good, I'll fish." The next day, I slept until noon, then got in my car and drove for over an hour to get to Dead Man's Cove. Dead Man's Cove was a massive, U-shaped bend in the river with a swift current and numerous hidden reefs. Due to its complex geography, Debris from upstream often got snagged here, making it a historically good spot for scavenging. The riverbank was already crowded with parked cars, and dozens of people were sweeping the muddy flats with metal detectors of all shapes and sizes, like a team of minesweepers. I found a high spot to park, grabbed my gear, and expertly started my live stream. The moment I went live, the viewers started pouring in. First, greetings to the Secretary of Justice. Well, isn't this Dead Man's Cove? I hear there are more ghosts than fish here. What are you talking about? I heard you can find silver nuggets here. Master, you're at Dead Man's Cove too? I'm on my way. Save me a spot. The last comment was from Ryan. I casually agreed as I walked on. Carrying my gear, I avoided the crowd of treasure hunters and went to the deepest, fastest-flowing eddy in the bend. This was the exact spot where the purplish red and golden dots overlapped on my system map. I stood on a rock at the water's edge, looked down at the murky, yellowish, bottomless water, and silently commanded, "Activate Ultimate Eye of Insight." The next second, a cool sensation washed over my eyes, and the scene before me changed. The murky yellow water instantly became crystal clear in my vision, as if I had switched to a 4K Ultra HD display, my sight piercing the surface all the way to the riverbed. I couldn't help but curse. Holy crap! The riverbed was a giant junkyard. Abandoned bicycles, rusty metal frames, even the wreckage of half a tractor. How the hell was I supposed to fish here? It was a graveyard of snags. But soon, my attention was drawn to a depression in the deepest part of the cove. Beneath all the industrial junk, there were numerous coin-sized round objects scattered about, emitting a faint golden glow. Silver dollars. They were all silver dollars. But before I could get too excited, I saw a huge object beneath the silver dollars. It was oval-shaped, about 3 feet long, and half buried in the mud. A thick, broken iron chain was wrapped around it, and the shiniest of the silver dollars were caught on that chain. In the system's heat map view, this giant oval object was emitting a terrifying purplish-red glow. I glanced at the countdown timer. Only 5 minutes left. I had to get my hook precisely next to that big thing, or better yet, snag that chain before the Eye of Insight wore off. I quickly switched to the large snag hook that had made me famous at the pay pond, attached a lead weight, took aim, and cast. The sinker and line traced a graceful arc through the air, landing precisely above the large object and slowly sinking. I held my breath, maneuvering the rod to guide the hook closer and closer to the chain with the silver dollars. The very instant the hook touched the chain, a ding sounded in my head. Ultimate insight has ended. The world before me instantly returned to its murky state, making me feel dizzy. But I had no time for that. I flicked my wrist hard, and a heavy sensation shot up my arm, the feedback of metal biting into metal. I was snagged. Overjoyed, I gripped the rod with both hands and pulled with all my might. However, the object underwater didn't move an inch. It felt like I had hooked the planet itself. I frowned. This thing was way too heavy. I racked my brain, and an idea came to me. If I can't pull it, I'll have to bring in the heavy artillery. Soon, the crowd on the banks of Dead Man's Cove witnessed a peculiar tug-of-war. The contestants were my new SUV on one side, and an unknown behemoth buried deep in the water on the other. I took an electric winch, a steel cable, and a nylon rope from my car. I slid a slipknot in the nylon rope down the taut fishing line, and using my memory from the Eye of Insight and the feel of the line, I managed to loop it around an iron ring on the underwater object. This maneuver left the live stream viewers speechless. Holy crap, is the streamer inventing a new kind of fishing? Who uses a winch to go fishing? I have a feeling today's events are going to be huge. I ignored the comments and stood on the bank with the winch remote. As I pressed the button, the winch motor whined under the strain, the steel cable went taut, and the front of my SUV dipped slightly. The mine-sweeping treasure hunters nearby were drawn by the commotion and gathered to watch. Kid, did you hook a sunken ship? I bet it's a log. There are a lot of sunken logs here. Don't tell me you're pulling up a coffin. The crowd murmured, and many took out their phones to record. The water's surface began to churn violently, with large bubbles and black mud rising to the top, releasing a musty, foul smell. Amidst the crowd's anticipation, with a great splash, the underwater behemoth finally revealed itself. The first thing to emerge was a section of thick, rusty chain, with several dark, round lumps clinging to it, glinting with a hint of silver. My eyes lit up when I saw it. Real silver. Then, the large object wrapped in the chain was dragged onto the shallows by the winch. It was a giant, oval-shaped iron mass, covered in rust, looking neither like a coffin nor a treasure chest. At its top was a protruding metal ring, which was exactly where my hook and the tow rope were snagged. I stopped the winch and approached it, completely bewildered, to get a closer look. The thing looked vaguely familiar, like a capsule or a giant propane tank. Some of the braver onlookers also gathered around. The metal is pretty thick, looks like a part from some machine. Hey, look, there's writing on it. Looks like a foreign language. In the live stream, the chat, which had been filled with awesome, suddenly went silent for a moment. Then, a bold, red comment with exclamation points shot across the screen like a thunderclap. Streamer, run, don't touch that ring. Whatever you do, don't touch that ring. I was puzzling over the comment from a user named Military Buff Miller when another one appeared. That's an unexploded bomb from World War II. The shape looks like an aerial bomb or a magnetic mine. That ring you're hooked on is the trigger fuse. Stop looking and run. If that thing goes off, you're going to be launched into orbit. I stiffly turned my head to look at the iron mass less than 6 feet in front of me, and suddenly heard a faint but terrifyingly clear click. A chill shot up from my soles to the crown of my head, and I froze completely. The few people who had been gathered around the iron mass also sensed something was wrong. Is that thing making a noise? Really? I don't hear anything. Seeing one of them about to press his ear against the object to listen, I summoned all my strength and roared from the depths of my lungs. Run! It's a bomb. Everyone froze for a second, then scattered like a disturbed hornet's nest. In the blink of an eye, the area was clear. I wanted to run too, but I couldn't. My fishing rod was still connected to the line to the car to the rope, and the rope was tightly snagged on that fuse ring. The winch was locked. If I released the tension now, I'd be taking a one-way trip to the moon. My legs were trembling, but I forced myself to calm down and shakily dialed Captain Miller's number. He answered quickly, his voice sounding weary. Ethan, what is it now? I'm in the middle of a seminar about your special constitution. You haven't caused any trouble, have you? I looked at the giant iron ball nearby and said in a tearful voice, Captain, no one's dead this time, but I might be about to send a whole group of people to the afterlife. I winched up a bomb at Dead Man's Cove. My viewers say it's an aerial bomb, and it's ticking. The other end of the line went silent. After a full 3 seconds, I heard the sound of a chair toppling over, followed by Captain Miller's frantic roar. Everyone, meeting's over. Bomb squad, SWAT, helicopter, move out now. Ethan, hold on to that winch. Don't move a muscle. Don't even breathe too hard. That's a 2,000-pound aerial bomb. If it goes off, the entire cove is gone. I know, Captain. Right now, I don't dare move. I don't even dare to fart. 10 minutes later, just as I felt I was about to collapse from exhaustion, the roar of helicopter blades finally filled the sky. A helicopter swooped in and hovered over the cove, the powerful downdraft flattening the surrounding reeds. I panicked and shouted, "Don't come any closer. The wind is too strong. The car is going to tip over." The helicopter pilot apparently realized the problem, quickly gained altitude, and landed on a distant road. Captain Miller and a large team of officers established a 2-mile perimeter, and the onlookers who had been watching from 100 yards away were evacuated to the opposite hillside. Several experts in heavy bomb disposal suits, carrying toolboxes, waddled quickly but clumsily in my direction like penguins. Captain Miller stood 100 yards away with a megaphone, shouting, "Ethan, follow the experts' instructions. Do not move." I wanted to nod, but my neck was as stiff as concrete. I could only blink a couple of times, hoping the captain could see me. The lead bomb disposal expert, an older man, scanned the device with an instrument. His face turned grim and he spoke into his radio. "It's an American-made M66, used to sink warships. The explosive charge in this thing could level not just this car, but half this hillside." He glanced at the fuse ring, which was constricted by the nylon rope, wiped the sweat from his brow, and continued, "This kid is very lucky. The fuse is rusted, and it's in a delicate state of equilibrium right now. It's a good thing he didn't run, or the firing pin might have dropped." Hearing the expert's report, my mind went blank. "But, can you disarm it?" The old expert shot me a glare. "Don't talk. The sound waves could cause a vibration." The plea for help I was about to make got stuck in my throat. Seriously? He'd been talking this whole time, but I couldn't say a single word? The next half hour was longer than any wait for death. 2 bomb experts carefully froze the fuse area with liquid nitrogen spray, then used extremely fine tools to slowly cut away the tangled nylon rope and my fishing hook. While working, the old expert grumbled, "I've been disarming bombs my whole life. I've done it on construction sites, in subways, but this is the first damn time I've had to deal with one that was fished out with a hook." Hearing his joke, I was on the verge of tears. "Master, could you please focus?" The next second, with a soft snip, the taut nylon rope was finally cut. The other expert quickly clamped a stabilizer onto the fuse, then let out a long sigh and collapsed to the ground. "Phew, it's temporarily safe." I felt all the strength drain from my body and slumped to the ground, gasping for air. The old expert walked over and patted my shoulder. "You're one lucky kid. You really cheated death today." Just then, Captain Miller rushed over, pointing at me with a trembling finger, furious. "You, I swear, are you trying to be the death of me? Why do you have to cause this much trouble every single day? Captain, you've got it all wrong. I was just trying to fish for some silver dollars." Then a thought struck me. I turned to look at the large bomb, now surrounded by SWAT officers, or more precisely, at the chain wrapped around it, and asked weakly, Captain, does the silver on that chain count as my catch?" The air froze for a second. Captain Miller actually laughed out of sheer frustration. "You almost died, and you're still thinking about those few pieces of silver? With your money-over-life attitude, it's a real shame you're not an undercover cop." With that, he bent down, picked up the section of chain, and weighed the dark metal lumps on it. "These are historical artifacts. They have to be confiscated." I let out a wail of despair. "But I worked so hard for nothing?" Captain Miller handed the chain to a nearby officer, then patted my shoulder comfortingly. "All right, stop your whining. The silver is gone, but you've performed a great service today. This bomb was in a very hidden location, and its fuse was extremely unstable. If you hadn't fished it out, and a flood washed it downstream into a bridge or a hydroelectric dam, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Between the reward for reporting a threat and the one for contributing to the protection of historical artifacts, the city police and the Historical Society have conferred and decided to request an $8,000 reward for you, Captain Miller said, holding up 8 fingers. My previously dim eyes lit up like searchlights after hearing his words. My back no longer ached, my legs no longer hurt, and I even felt an urge to go take a selfie with the bomb. Captain Miller watched my reaction and shook his head with a helpless smile. Ethan, next time you plan on fishing for something, can you give me a heads up first? If this keeps up, my heart won't be able to take it. I nodded emphatically and patted my chest, promising with utmost sincerity, Captain, you can trust me. Next time I will definitely just catch a fish.